standing right at the
We start this video aboard the Viking Tiafli for its traditional German dinner. As this is my first Viking cruise, I'm not sure whether they do this every cruise or just for the winter market cruises. But from what I see online, apparently you may be in luck any time of year. Every meal aboard the ship was a good one, and this was no exception. Let me show you what was on offer. However, we interrupted this dinner so that I can go out and watch the ship go through one of the locks on this river. Up until this point, our passages through the locks had been in the late evening or early morning. But this one was at prime time, so I headed out to the bow. Probably because it fell right in the middle of dinner, there were only 2 other guests out there. In real time, the process is very hard to discern. You go up a little bit, you go up a little more, you go up a little more. But when I edit the video this way, you can definitely see the change. And we're almost ready to go. I had expected the locks to swing open, but instead this one sort of just disappears into the water. Then we were back underway. With dinner completed, we returned to our cabin. But hold up, here's some more locks. Hope you like locks. I think I've mentioned before that the way these locks are designed, there's enough room for 2 ships to pass through at the same time. That means you find your ship maybe a foot or 2 away from the one next to it. The next morning we found ourselves in Breisach, which is the port for Freiburg, and I don't speak German. From the port to the city is maybe a 25-30 minute bus ride, and we were doing it in early morning. It looks like we'll have a nice clear day. Oops, maybe we won't have a nice clear day.
Started to put up the Christmas tree earlier for on Christmas Eve is sausages with potato salad. I just read some statistics that is the Christmas dinner for about 40% of the people in Germany.
Well, that must have been a slight valley because by the time we got to the city, it was clear. What you're looking at is one of the trenches you find in Freiburg that were used to fight fires. And now what you're looking at is the plaza around the Freiburg Cathedral. Turns out we were here on a market day. Now I admit that I don't know a lot about cathedrals, but I know what I like, and this one was beautiful. I really enjoyed the fact that we were here for the morning sun. The plaza itself was not too shabby either. By the way, the coffee cart you're seeing here was actually run by Costa Ricans. They were very nice and I got to speak Spanish to them, sort of. Very good coffee also. Now this may be hard to see, but the measuring units for things like bread were actually carved into the side of the cathedral. You couldn't cheat that way. Here, next to the cathedral, was the normal produce market. And while I will return to have a look around here, let's go to the winter markets. Here's a tip. As you're walking around town, don't get hit by a tram. It's a little hard to show on video, but most of these winter markets are actually a bunch of different places on a bunch of different streets, and this was no exception. Once again, because Viking has a morning itinerary, we had arrived before most of the stalls and shops had opened. We would be returning to this one as soon as it was up and open for business. Because cats. I'd mentioned in parts 2 and 3 that these winter markets begin to all feel kind of the same after a while. And while many of the offerings are familiar, it's worth looking around to see what you didn't see before. The other thing I had said is be sure to buy your souvenirs when you can. So, we're back at the cat shop. This is clearly the location where the German economy benefited most from us. Let's continue our walk around the market. In most of the winter markets, you can find a glühwein served in a glass or mug with the city name on it. Another good souvenir idea. When you buy it, you put down a deposit to return the cup, but you don't have to, and then they just keep your deposit. By serving good, plentiful, and included meals, Viking kind of spoils your appetite for some of these things. Still, you gotta try. And just when you think you've come to the end of the winter market, you look across the street, and what do you see? Another winter market. I could have kept going, but I decided to turn back toward the cathedral. I had seen a couple of year-round gift shops that I wanted to check out. These cuckoo clocks were really something. Wow. Oh, maybe not. I'll back away very carefully. Well, now let's just take a quick walk around the produce market. It's one way to prove that these are real people doing real shopping in a real city. And, not just tourists. Nobody brings a cabbage back from Germany as their souvenir, after all. I didn't take the time to get to the heart of this apparent sausage rivalry. Then it was time for the familiar walk back to the bus and bus back to the ship.
Swabia is a part of southwest Germany. It is in Germany when it comes to living.
And we're back in time for lunch. I wonder what we're having. We're having a little potato salad and a little of whatever this is and a little dessert. And oh, I forgot. There was an entree. The food was always good.
So I'll just ask.
Now, without the ship leaving port, we were back on the buses and off to another adventure. This was Viking's Schnapps tour to Staufen, Germany. And this is the Schnapps Distillery.
All these products here, all these different spirits.
First, we had a presentation about the various products. And then we had a tasting session. I'm not a super big fan of schnapps, so I didn't really partake much. But some of these people looked like underage college kids at a campus party. I guess you have to get your money's worth. Up next was the tour of the distillery itself. Usually they do it in the other order, but there were two groups there. There was a pretty thorough explanation of the distillery process, and I remember none of it, but boy, this equipment looked cool. One thing I do remember, though, is that there's no specific aging time for schnapps. It's ready when it's ready, and the master distiller will say when that is. Exit through gift shop. I'm not putting it down, we bought a bottle. Now it was time to just walk around this small town. And though it was decorated for Christmas, you could tell that this was a special place year-round. I'm going to do this part without narration. Well, I need to tell you that's Staufen Castle.
See the kitten pushing in the window?
It looks like a children's choir is about to perform here. So we hadn't quite yet found the winter market, but when we did, there was a treat. By now you know the drill. Back to the bus, back to the ship. We enjoyed our last dinner on board and went back to the room to pack. But before we disembarked, one more set of locks. This is the point in the video where I ask you to do 3 things. The first is, if you like the video, please hit like. The second is, if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comments. And the third is, please subscribe to the channel. The Viking staff gathered our luggage and either took us to the hotel or to the airport, depending upon the person's itinerary. And if you've watched all 4 parts, you've seen this is a really special trip, especially when the winter markets are running. Though we were sorry to see the trip end, we still had 2 days in Basel.